She had some deprogramming. She could be such a fantastic candidate.
What do you mean deprogramming?
Well, she just doesn't. She's never going to resonate with people outside of the bubble that she lives in the very, very far left.
What did they freak out about?
Gender, race, parenthood, schools, homelessness, crime, the border, education. Like we stopped being a scientific people.
AOC may not have said it outright, but many observers think she's quietly setting herself up for a future presidential run within the Democratic Party. One of those voices is Bill Maher, who cautions that the party could face a serious setback in 2028 if it unites behind her as the nominee. And he isn't speaking casually. Maher lays out arguments that land hard and leave little room for reassurance. So get ready, because what he shares could completely change how you view this upcoming political clash. And before we jump into it, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, because things are about to get intense very quickly.
I'd love to have AOC on the show, and Mandami and Elizabeth Warren, but I can't subpoena the guests. And I can't fix that what the Democrats are scared of more than anything else, I mean, obviously besides gluten, is being primaried from the far left, even though most Democrats are not far left. They're mild-mannered and moderate, at least at my bathhouse.
Bill Maher doesn't hold back when discussing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He says she has avoided appearing on his show despite being invited several times. According to him, it's not about timing, it's intentional. He believes she prefers not to enter a setting where questions aren't pre-planned, where the discussion isn't tightly managed, and where she can't depend on a supportive crowd. And realistically, moments like that tend to linger. Think back to when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attended a conference in Europe and faced a question critics say caught her unprepared. That clip circulated widely for a reason. Maher's argument is straightforward. She likely wants to avoid a repeat, especially on a stage watched by millions with pressure at its peak.
There is one practical thing that Democrats can do right now that would help them regain power. It's never speak to Trump in person. No, I'm kidding. That's stupid. No, it's this. Inspire your moderates to vote in the primaries. Get that base excited. You have the numbers. After Congressman Moulton made his comment about his daughter not getting run over, he added, "But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that." Well, then change what you're supposed to be afraid of.
Cool. Critics argue that one key reason moderates have been stepping back from voting is the growing influence of figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Zohran Mamdani. For many of these voters, the party no longer feels familiar. Instead, it seems to be evolving into something they hardly recognize. Traditionally, the Democratic National Committee has represented a form of liberalism built on broad rights, open discussion, and a big tent approach that embraces differing views. But critics claim a newer, more rigid ideological wing has taken shape, often described as woke, and they see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as one of its most prominent advocates. They argue this shift has created a divide, pushing away some who once felt included but now feel ignored, unheard, and less motivated to participate in elections.
If she had some deprogramming, she could be such a fantastic candidate.
What do you mean deprogramming?
Well, she just doesn't. She's never going to resonate with people outside of the bubble that she lives in the very, very far left.
Well,
And that, I mean, the New York Times, of all people, the people I've been like squabbling with for the last 7, 8, 10 years, whatever, when I was all about, Democrats have gone too far left, they just put out a huge editorial basically saying exactly what I've been saying.
what, that she's too far left?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the heart of the argument. Critics say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez struggles to broaden her appeal beyond a limited base. They believe she has trouble energizing moderates who feel disconnected from her message, while also failing to convince conservatives who see her positions as far outside their perspective. In their view, this creates a ceiling she cannot break. Bill Maher goes further, warning that her political style could place the party at a disadvantage nationally. He argues her policies resonate strongly within progressive circles but lose support when tested across a wider and more diverse electorate. And in a general election where success depends on building coalitions, that gap isn't just a weakness. It could turn into a major liability.
Again, not that the Republicans are probably going to give it back, is to be more moderate. But we don't have to argue about her. I mean, she has.
If people think she's too far left, then that shows another way this country's broken right now.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily broken in that way, but it just shows how the country is not there. That is not where the country is, and if you don't,
unfortunately, that's the one thing, and I hate to admit this. This country is not as mature as it thinks it is.
Patton Oswalt appears to suggest that widespread disagreement with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's policies points to a deeper issue. That something within American society is fundamentally off course. Critics, however, see that conclusion as exaggerated, even unreasonable, arguing it reflects more about the mindset within that ideological circle than the country as a whole. From their perspective, it signals a kind of echo chamber where opposing views are dismissed instead of engaged. Bill Maher strongly challenges that idea. Grit. He argues that disagreement isn't evidence of decline, but a sign of a healthy society where people think independently and question ideas they don't accept. In his view, rejecting certain policies doesn't mean the public is broken. It shows the public is still capable of forming its own judgments.
We elected Obama, and clearly the country freaked out. We're still living in that freak out. We are not as progressed and evolved and intelligent as we think we are because we keep freaking out about this stuff.
Well,
you know?
The left freak out too. The left freaked out about a lot of bullshit too.
What did they freak out about?
Gender, race, parenthood, schools, homelessness, crime, the border, education. Like we stopped being a scientific people. Like it's not scientific.
But the left certainly stayed scientific.
Bill Maher focuses on what he sees as the most controversial parts of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's agenda, including gender debates, education standards, border policy, public safety, and homelessness. In his view, these aren't just policy disputes. They reflect a broader shift in priorities that many voters, including longtime liberals, find difficult to understand. Critics argue that positions linked to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez often appear disconnected from practical realities, leaning more toward ideology than what they consider common-sense solutions. And they say that's where the real divide begins. According to Maher, it's not only conservatives raising concerns. It's voices within the left who feel the movement has drifted too far from its original path. When even allies begin to question things, it signals a deeper identity issue that could reshape the party's future.
No, they didn't.
Why not?
Because they think gender bullshit that they went way too far with, that's not scientific.
But how did I'm not trying to. How did they go too far with like gender stuff? And I'm not trying to
instead of if I was teaching children, what I would teach them is there is a default setting for the human being, which is heterosexuality, but that doesn't mean every person is that, and we should completely respect everyone who isn't that. But we understand that that's called a minority, and what makes us a great country is that we respect minorities. We don't think they're lesser just because they're lesser in numbers.
respecting minority groups and refusing to treat anyone as lesser based on their background or numbers is a core principle of any fair and healthy society that isn't up for debate. It's the foundation. But critics argue that respect should not be mistaken for automatic agreement. Supporting equal rights doesn't require abandoning independent thinking or accepting every claim without examination. In a free society, people are expected to evaluate ideas, review evidence, and reach their own conclusions. The concern, as some see it, arises when disagreement is treated as hostility instead of part of open discussion. And that's where tension begins to grow. It's possible to defend dignity and equality while still asking difficult questions and challenging perspectives. In fact, that balance is what keeps public discourse alive. The ability to think freely, question narratives, and engage honestly isn't a threat to progress. It's what keeps it stable and meaningful.
Let's not even put it on the birth certificate. That's what they wanted.
Were we teaching that?
Yes, we
When
were.
were we teaching that?
Teaching it. It was a law here in California. See,
To teach what?
Don't put sex on the birth certificate. We'll see. Now, we've passed that period now.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. I mean,
I know, because it doesn't get in the blue sky bubble.
wait a minute, I'm not just on blue sky.
I really think that's a lot of it, is that some of this stuff doesn't get in to everybody's media.
It's notable to see Patton Oswalt appearing surprised by the intensity of gender debates that have dominated national conversations over the past several years. For many observers, those discussions have been impossible to ignore, shaping everything, from policy debates to cultural flashpoints. What stands out even more is his reaction to some of the more extreme viewpoints. Moments where the messaging can seem confusing or disconnected from everyday experience. And that ties back to the broader point critics are making. Even within left-leaning circles, there are times when people are taken aback by how far certain ideas are pushed. It's no longer just outsiders raising concerns. At times, it's individuals within the same ideological space questioning the direction, tone, and practicality of what's being promoted under the far-left label.
I'm of a mind, because I remember the African-American community was always saying there's brutality from the cops. Everyone said, oh, that's ridiculous. Stop it. This is all myth. And then cops started wearing body cameras, and lo and behold, there's all this footage of violence towards black people.
There was also a lot of footage of violence that they did on white people, but that didn't make it into videos. You see, nobody cared about that.
Well,
not that it excuses the other.
I'm just saying, whenever a minority expresses fear and trepidation and like, hey, please help us, this is going on, I tend now to believe them. I tend now to believe the minority.
I always believe them.
Whenever they say, hey, this is going on and this is really terrifying.